This is still relevant, right? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't want to talk about this game until I'd at least finished the story, so here we are. But as you could probably tell, I was one of those weird ones that actually really enjoyed Death Stranding. I mean, I would hope so. But I also completely understand why so many people were turned off by its gameplay. I mean, it's kinda, boring. That's subjective, to be fair, but when the entirety of the gameplay is 40 to 50 hours of playing Postman in rural America, where the only real challenge is driving the vehicles and, walking, it makes sense why people wouldn't find it particularly engaging. So, since that sounds terrible, why are people still enjoying it? Well, I think it comes down to two things. First, the game's other elements, its story, world design, Mads Mikkelsen, all form the strongest lumbar known to man, so they could carry just about anything. Secondly, though, is how the game's mechanics are all built around the form of asynchronous multiplayer known as the Spaghetti Strand. The social strand. Thank you. I know. Everything you do is centered on the objective of traversing the world as safely and efficiently as possible. Every item you craft, vehicle you use, construct you construct, is done with the intent of making it easier to deliver packages. Then, through the social strand concept, seen in-game as the bridge link mechanic, players are put into a sort of shared world, where items that they build and messages that they leave in their own world can be interacted with by other players in their world, and vice versa. I think this is something pretty special, because it creates unique interactions that you couldn't really get in other single-player games. Anything from dropping a rope from the top of a cliff to building zip lines along a mountaintop works towards creating a community network of shortcuts. Of course, not all single-player games need to have such an emphasis on community. I can't confidently say I'd be as invested in Joel's journey through The Last of Us if I was stopped every 30 seconds by a message giving me directions or sharing poetry. However, it works in Death Stranding by emphasizing its theme of coming together. These interactions work to make other players into an actual resource, creating a sort of communal dependence, which in turn creates that strong sense of community. The Soul series is another good example of using this type of multiplayer to build its community. While not nearly as integral, the messaging and summoning mechanics found in those games draw a lot of parallels to those found in Death Stranding. These mechanics illustrate how both games rely on a community of players working together to overcome obstacles. Dark Souls does this by allowing players to join each other's worlds to help in defeating bosses, which are inherently difficult and often need to be killed to progress. Their difficulty, though, is often offset by their creative design and engaging combat. I'm sorry. This offers players the joy of learning a boss's moveset and working creatively with the players that they've summoned to try and outplay them. This is important because I think it points out the real issue Death Stranding runs into. Its strand concept wasn't fully realized. I'm not saying that we should have been allowed to summon other players for boss fights, because not only is that not necessary, it's really not necessary. What I am saying is while the strand mechanics work extremely well for the delivery gameplay they were designed for, it doesn't change the fact that the gameplay is inherently dull. Instead of having players work together to overcome challenging gameplay that's actually satisfying, like fighting the bosses in the Soul series, it's having them work together to shortcut tedious and boring work. This creates neat moments within hours of mind-numbing gameplay, rather than great moments within hours of gameplay that's very solid on its own. I only bring up this comparison because it illustrates why I'm so excited for Kojima's future titles. While there's no confirmation yet on any future games in the Strand series specifically, Kojima has claimed that if he were to release a sequel, he would like to start from zero. The potential for more games from Kojima built on this concept, even if they follow a completely different plot, is I think the most exciting thing about Death Stranding. Because if there's anyone capable of creating gameplay systems so quality and engaging that they literally establish an entire new genre, it's Kojima.